disciple. This is my stream. All praise be to the Most High God. The Most High God comes first. I always got to say that and then get into what we're going to talk about today. Um, so, as you can see, Superman isn't what you think he is. That's the stream. Now, interestingly enough, even though I said that and I said we saw the Snyderverse and Free Palestine, this stream is actually going to be more about Free Palestine. But I'm going to start off with Snyderverse stuff and with comic book stuff. But we're mostly going to, in this stream, be talking about Free Palestine. So if that's not something that interests you, you can sign out after. I'm going to start with this, though. We'll start with this, and then we'll merge across to that topic. Now, first and foremost, for those of you who don't know, the Ultimate Showdown, if you're not a DC fan, you won't know this, but the Ultimate Showdown in DC has always been Superman clashing with Darkseid. You know, the ultimate villain in DC is Darkseid. And the ultimate clash or showdown has always been with DC, Superman versus Darkseid. And we've actually had animated comics based off the comics on this. Okay. We had Supergirl, who was held hostage by Darkseid. And, you know, that's in the Batman Superman series. But we also had Superman going up against Darkseid a number of times. One of the first times that Superman, well, yes, Darkseid appeared in many, many comics. I believe the first comic where Darkseid appeared was in Forever People. That was the first appearance of Darkseid. And Superman actually encountered him and all of that. But there's actually a comic where Darkseid, he's able to hypnotize Superman and make him forget who he is. And, you know, they call him the savior in that one. And he's actually on Apokolips. And Darkseid brainwashes him into thinking that he's his son. And that comic is Oh Deadly Darkseid. Okay? Superman comic. Oh Deadly Darkseid. So you guys can check that comic out. And I put it up on the left side of the left panel of the screen, as you can see here right now. Now you also have Superman versus Darkseid. You have the Supergirl from Apokolips. You have Batman Superman issue number 13, where Superman is raging at Darkseid because he kills Supergirl with his Omega beams. So there's actually an animated movie on that. So you can check that out as well. So people say, you know, DC's dark and it's hardcore. Well, DC's dark and it's hardcore. I mean, Marvel doesn't have nothing near the level of hardcoreness and darkness that DC has. People die left, right, and center in DC, okay? The stakes are always there. You don't know if the hero's going to make it to the end. This is DC. That's just DC's always been that way. You know, people say DC's light and happy and Marvel was dark and hardcore. That's not true. I mean, some Marvel comics are hardcore. I'm not gonna lie, of recent times. But back in the day with Thor and with Captain America, they weren't as hardcore as people were making it out to be. Okay, back in the 80s and in the 70s, it wasn't hardcore. Okay, there was G.I. Joe. G.I. Joe was pretty hardcore, you know. But to say Marvel is hardcore and DC was light and funny, that's bullshit. Okay. Anyway, these are a couple other Darkseid comics here. You have Countdown to Crisis, obviously that's a big one. The New Gods, the Death of the New Gods. Darkseid number 1 in the New 52. You also had Superman Darkseid. So there's a number of Darkseid comics. That's my point. I'm just showing you some of them. All right. Not to mention the Justice League versus Darkseid. There's a whole bunch of that. So I don't understand when so-called DC fans say that they prefer to see Superman versus Brainiac, or Superman versus um, um, the other character they bring up, Parasite, or some other character like that, than to see Superman versus Darkseid. If you say that, you're not a DC fan. You're not a real DC fan. You're not a DC fan who's grown up on DC. You didn't grow up on DC. You grew up on something else, but you didn't grow up on DC. You call yourself a DC fan because maybe you like one or two DC movies, but you're not a DC fan. Okay, you're not somebody who grew up on DC. You weren't somebody who was reading DC comics. You probably read Batman comics. You probably got into DC because of Batman, because Batman is probably the most successful franchise in DC movies. So through the DC movies and through Batman, you got, and this is another thing. And mind you, remember what the topic is, right? The topic is Superman is not what you think, okay? Because I'm going to get back to that. Don't worry. A lot of people say they know Batman. And usually these people who are talking about Batman and raving about Batman, they actually got introduced to Batman through the movies, okay? Whether it's The Dark Knight, whether it's, and then they suddenly became experts on Batman, okay? The Dark Knight, or very recently there, we have the Batman movie, right? Because there's a tremendous misconception about Batman, okay? And I'm going to say this so the people will understand, because some of these little nerdy guys that be talking on social media, I really get annoyed with them because they really don't know who Batman is. They don't know Batman. They don't know what Batman is. They don't know Batman's origins. They don't know anything about Batman. But they're talking like they know the gospel of Batman because they read a couple modern comics on Batman. Notice I said modern comics. They don't read the old classics. They haven't read a single old classic on Batman. All they know is he carried guns and stuff. And according to canon, he's no longer does that. You got to read everything. You have to read everything. You can't talk about Batman and you haven't read everything on Batman, because you need to understand what is the core principles of Batman. And it's not killing. That's not a core principle of Batman. And I know some of you are going to become very annoyed and very angry at me because that's one of his rules. It's a no-kill rule. He don't carry guns and he doesn't kill. Those are two rules, but he breaks them. So that's not the core of Batman. And there are many different versions of Batman. And some of those versions kill. Thomas Wayne's Batman, but he's a Batman. So that does not define Batman. Okay, that's not a core principle of Batman. Okay, rule number one about Batman. He dresses up as a bat. That's a core tenet. No matter what he is, vampire, whatever. Batman has to dress as a bat. Okay, that's something that's unshakable. That's something that has to happen. That's one. Two, Batman is the voice for the voiceless. He's the protector of the people who are not getting protected. For whatever reason, the law is not able to clamp down on the abusers and the people, so the victims are victims. Batman is a criminal. Batman is a vigilante. There are versions of Batman that work with law enforcement, but he's still a vigilante. Okay? He apprehends criminals. He doesn't apprehend. He catches criminals. He ties them up and he leaves them for the law to take control of them. He may beat them up. He may badger them. He breaks a lot of laws. Okay? He uses excessive force sometimes. Well, every version of Batman has used excessive force. Every version of Batman. Every version. Even the Adam West 1966 Batman, he'd be throwing it down, beating up people. He uses excessive force. He'll beat you down. Okay? Batman beats down people. That's another immutable thing about Batman. Every version of Batman you found has used excessive force, has been beating down people. He's a brawler. He's a beater. He dresses as a bat. He beats down people. He defends the powerless, the helpless, particularly those people who the law cannot protect them. He's like the equalizer. But he's not hired. He takes on certain things because He has a heart for people, and he does not like to see people take advantage of. The other thing about Batman, and all versions of Batman, whether it's on the screen, wherever, this is immutable. Does not change about Batman. Batman is there to make sure that justice in his own kind of way, because he breaks laws. This is the thing about Batman. Batman, remember, he's a criminal. He's really a vigilante. Okay? He's not, there's a lot of things he does that's illegal, but he has to do them because the law is not enforcing what should happen. So he has to go and sometimes break some laws and stuff to get the results, to apprehend the criminals, to get the evidence against them. So he breaks and enters, he steals things. He extorts people for leverage. He's a very abusive. It can go from beating you down to literally having you, moments away from dying and bleeding to death. Okay. He might blow off parts of your limbs and shit like that. He may break bones. Batman is a criminal. Okay. All right. We praise him because he gets the job done, but let's not get it twisted. He's doing a lot of illegal things, but he's like, if the criminals can go this far and do these illegal things, I can do them. Okay. So one, Batman is dressed like a bat. That's a fundamental thing. If he's not dressed like a bat, he's not Batman. Okay. Okay. Two, we said he defends the people who the law cannot protect. Three, he's very abusive, okay? And he's a criminal. He breaks laws. He breaks a lot of laws, all right? That's why you don't see Batman standing in front of the public, all right? You will see Bruce Wayne probably talking to the public, but you won't see Batman in the public eye in front of everybody. He's a even though there's a version of Batman where, he works with the commissioner, but I've never seen him really in public. Okay, Batman in public. And yes, when he's with the Justice League, sometimes he's in public. But if you really pay attention, Batman generally he's not in the public eye. He's kind of he's generally speaking now, he's an urban myth. He's an urban myth. He's an urban legend, right? Nobody sees him, but they know he's around. They know that when certain people are apprehended or caught with evidence, it's really him behind it. Right? He leaves it off for the police. So that's the way how Batman moves. Okay. He's Christopher Nolan explained that he's more like a ninja. You don't really see him. He operates in the background. Okay. All right. Another immutable fact about Batman. Because his parents were killed, he had vowed a vow of vengeance. And this is why Batman says, I am vengeance. He vowed a vow of vengeance to avenge his parents' death by ensuring that criminals would never be able to put a victim in the position that he was in and his parents were in. Okay? And if that means killing people, if it means whatever, that's how he do. And that's how it originally started. The original Batman, the first episode of Batman, the first issue of Batman. You go read a Batman comic. The very first Batman comic. That's what the original Batman, that is what he's saying. At that time, he used guns. At that time, he threw criminals off of ledges to their deaths. He buried them in garbage. He hung them from planes, and he did all kinds of shit, okay? But at the end of the day, he wanted to stop the savagery and the death that these criminals were causing to people who were victims like himself. Okay? That's the original Batman. And that modus operandi has been with him throughout all the Batmans that you will ever see. It's always because their parents died. And because his parents died, he's exacting revenge in his own way, but through a sort of form of justice, a form of poetic justice, let's say, to avenge that. Okay, he's trying to set the record right, even though he's doing a lot of wrong things to set it right, because the justice system is not correcting it. Okay, so when you think of Batman, and people say, he's very what's the word I'm looking, fascist. Batman is fascist, and so yes, to a certain degree, Batman as an individual is fascist, but let us not get it twisted. And he reminds me of police officers, how they think of criminals in Hollywood. They're vermin, they're scum, they're whatever, right? He's like that. Now, he doesn't look at he does have a certain degree of empathy for some of these criminals, like Joker and other people. But let's make it abundantly clear. Batman is just one individual, thank God. If it was more than one of him, whoo, that would be scary. But Batman, for the most part, is the guy who will do the dirty work that nobody else wants to do. He's going to get it done to make sure that justice is served, that the scales are somehow balanced. That's Batman, okay? So while Batman, they later on put out this rule where he doesn't use guns, and he doesn't use guns, and he doesn't kill people. He doesn't always keep that rule, right? So those are flexible rules, depending on the situation and depending on the threat. Okay. But what I just told you about Batman are literally unchangeable things about Batman. You look at Batman throughout all time, throughout all history. Okay. Even what he's inspired by, he was inspired by Zorro, and I'm trying to remember I can't remember the character right now. But he was inspired by certain characters who did kill as well, but they were also vigilantes. So Batman is just an extension of vigilante justice, with the outcome being to have justice. It's a guy that dresses up like a bat, and usually moves by night. I'm not saying this is a strict thing, okay? Because there are different iterations of Batman. We have, animated versions of Batman and Batman 66 and several others. I think The Dark Knight Rises, where Batman was seen in the day and he was doing his thing in the day. But for the most part, over the cover of night, because he's called the Dark Knight, right? It's a play on words. Dark Knight in sense of, he's like, a guy who is dubbed or knighted as the one to deal with the situation, anointed, if you want, to deal with the situation during the night, right? So the Dark Knight, or you could look at him as the Dark Knight, like literally. He's like nightfall coming at your ass. You know what I mean? It's like the end of you. If you're a criminal, this is the end for you. You can look at him like that too. But the point behind Batman, if you haven't studied the character, the psychology of the character and so on, is he's trying to prevent something from happening. He's trying to stop something from happening. He's trying to stop things from happening. So his way of conducting things, and this is what makes BVS so great, and even how they dub him the Bat instead of the Batman, they dub him a creature instead of, the creature of the night, because that was one of his soliloquies very early in his career. He was known as the creature of the night. They didn't even think of him as human. That was the myth. And I think Tim Burton did a good job of doing that as well, where, that when they shot at him, they realized he was a man and he was wearing body armor. And it was like, oh, because, the whole myth of Batman, that spread throughout the criminal community was that this was a thing, this was a creature, and it was unstoppable, and it was taking out people, and arresting people, and people getting caught, and it was seen as a threat, right? So, when we talk about Batman, that's what we're talking about. So there are truths about Batman that no matter what version of Batman you have, that's just Batman. So Thomas Wayne's Batman falls into that. Vampire Batman falls into that. That's what makes Batman Batman, okay? It's not so much that he doesn't carry guns, because he may carry guns, he may not carry guns, it's his mindset. It's his psychology. What is he? What drives him? What motivates him? Why does he dress up like a bat? And the story is explained. It's explained why he dresses up like a bat and so on. So you have to understand these things. And if you don't, then you're going to be like these people online who are clueless to the character, and they just keep on saying the same rubbish over and over again. All right. Do you know how difficult it is to control and crack down on serious crime? I'm talking about people like sex trafficking, that is prevalent in the world today, the drug trade, without killing people? That's impossible. That's very, very, you're talking about people who are going to take your life. It's either you or them. And I'm being honest with you. Batman couldn't do this. I don't care. He's dressed like a bat and all that. He has body armor and all that. That may be cool. But you can't do that against that level of criminal and not kill some of them. You're going to have, it's impossible. And even Matt Reeves, the Batman, which, again, the guys in Matt Reeves, the Batman, the criminals there, they're goofy, they're loony, and they don't carry the high power weapons that we saw in BVS. In fact, in all of the Batman movies, the only Batman movies where the criminals carried high powered weapons was in The Dark Knight Rises, and in Batman v Superman, and in Zack Snyder's Justice League. Even in The Dark Knight, they were carrying rifles, right? They weren't using automatic weapons. They weren't using high-powered weapons. There was bombing. There was explosions. The Joker was really creative with that. But to say he was carrying high-powered weapons, that wasn't the case. In BVS, these guys were armed to the teeth. These guys were literally private military militias that would go into countries and assist rebels in throwing over regimes. Just like how we have regime change by Al Qaeda in Libya, in Syria. Now, this is what is going on. They're militias. They're privately trained people, mercenaries hired by, LexCorp or whoever, and they went and if you look at particularly The Dark Knight Rises, where you have Bane, who is leading this righteous religious militia. Okay, that's what you see there, and again, high power weapons, etc., the whole 9 yards, right? So intelligence, etc. All right. So this is what Batman was dealing with in BVS, and this is why he had to be, relentless and just come at them with really hard artillery and have good armory and good weaponry, because these guys weren't playing around. They were shooting to kill. They were trying to kill him, right? And we saw it in the warehouse scene. They stabbed him. They shot him. But he has body armor, and he still got injured. And he was taking on like 20, 30 of them. I'd never seen Batman in live action take on so many different people all at once. I saw him take on like 6, 7 people through shots at him simultaneously, and he blocked all the shots. And that shit was looking crazy. He was looking like a freaking samurai in there. I mean, it was just crazy how sick that Batman warehouse scene is to this day. And that Batman warehouse scene was done in 2016. First time we saw it was a bridge version, and he had the longer version. And man, that thing is it's crazy. It's crazy. Even when I look back at it, I'm like, can they make a better Batman fighting scene than that? I mean, even in Zack Snyder's Justice League, nothing even came close to that scene. You know what I'm saying? That is an incredible scene. Anyway, I hope they can get the choreography for the Batman. And when I say the Batman, I'm talking about Ben Affleck versus Deathstroke. And I've seen the video game where Batman is fighting Deathstroke, and that shit was lit. So I can only imagine if they get the choreography really well done and down, that shit will look crazy. And the only thing is you have to get the right angles and the right shots. Zack just knew where to put the camera for that action scene with Batman. And of course, Jay Oliver was there, probably also giving tips and shit. And if Jay and Zach come together, at least to choreograph the fight scenes, even if Gavin O'Connor is the director of that Batman movie, and Zach and Jay, and they get the right angles, because you got to get the right angle to make the shot, and to make the action look really awesome and believable. And you're thinking Batman's going to die. Deathstroke has the advantage on him. He's doing damage to Deathstroke, but Deathstroke has the advantage on him. You know what I'm saying? Because Deathstroke is actually a superior fighter to Batman. Batman, he's stronger than him, and he's more intelligent than him. He's faster than him and everything. So how does Batman take down Deathstroke? That would be an incredible something to see. Anyways, that was that. Let's talk about Superman a little bit. Let's talk about Superman a little bit. So you guys, so there's a lot about Superman that these so-called Superman fans really don't know anything about. This is Superman, the first issue of Superman. Okay. This is Superman #1. Now, Superman first appeared in a comic strip, in the very first comic strip of Action Comics #1. And actually, there's a piece of Action Comics #1 where this story of Superman actually borrows from that and does the exact same story inside of here, but it begins differently. So if I can, okay. Now, okay. Shit. Okay. I don't have the whole Action comic there, but I just want to show you guys something. So first and foremost about Superman. Superman was discovered by the Kents. In this version, unfortunately for me, I'll have to go and search for everything, but I don't have time for that. But they give him over to an orphanage. Okay? They discovered him and they gave him over. It's an elderly couple, and they gave him over to an orphanage. While in that orphanage, Superman displayed his incredible strength. So he was picking up things and wreaking havoc in the orphanage. Okay, he was destroying stuff and so on. So the Kents came back because their heart was smitten, and they said they would like to adopt Superman. And the owner of the orphanage was very relieved to hear that. He was very happy to hear that. And he said, absolutely, take him. Because he was destroying the orphanage. So as a result of that, when we come to this little piece that you see in front of you right now, and it says, the love and guidance of his kindly foster parents was to become an important factor in the shaping of the boy's future. Now listen to me, Clark. This great strength of yours, you've got to hide it from people or they'll be scared of you. His mother says, but when the proper time comes, you must use it to assist humanity. Now, in this version of Superman, his parents eventually die. He becomes a big man and his parents die. And while that's happening, he's listening to them and he's hiding his great strength from people. Okay? So while they're alive, he's not Superman. He's not doing, at least publicly, he's not doing things so people could see, so they get scared of him. Okay? Remember, he was a little baby in the orphanage, and he was wreaking freaking havoc in the orphanage. He was destroying a lot of stuff. Okay? This is Superman issue #1. So they said, no, Clark, you got to hide those powers, otherwise you scare people. Okay? You got to hide it. All right. Superman issue #1. So for all these so-called Superman fans out there, the origin of the character, his adopted parents was telling him, don't show your strength or powers to the world, they'll get scared of you. You have to hide it. Okay, so I'll give you a little. I'm gonna give you a little bit more insight. As the lad grew older, he learned to delight that he could hurdle skyscrapers. So he could leap very, very high. He leaped an eighth of a mile. Okay. Now, the thing about it is, as you can see there, he's jumping from the top of a skyscraper to another one. So people are not aware that he's doing this. He raised tremendous weights. So he was picking up cars and shit. He could run faster than a streamlined train, say faster than a locomotive, right? And nothing less than a bursting shell could penetrate his skin. What the? This is the 6th hypodermic needle I've broken on you, son. On your skin. Try again, Doc. The passing away of his foster parents greatly grieved Clark Kent, but it strengthened the determination that had been growing in his mind. So because they died, this is what he did. Clark decided he must turn his titanic strength into channels that would be of benefit to mankind. And so was created Superman, the champion of the oppressed, the physical marvel who had sworn to devote his existence to helping those in need. So, no, in the original Superman, his mother did not make his costume or his outfit. Let me say that again. The original Superman #1, Clark Kent's mother did not make his costume. Would you like to hear me say it again? In the original Superman comic, his mother did not make his costume. His parents were dead. And because his parents died, he purposed in his mind to channel his strength into benefiting mankind. Remember, his parents said, at the right time, but when the proper time comes, you must use it to assist humanity. Okay? Okay. So I want you to remember that, because when you go back and watch Man of Steel, those of you who are criticizing Jonathan Kent for telling Clark to hide his powers instead of use his powers to help mankind, I want you to remember what this very first Superman comic said. Okay? This is the very first. This is the foundation of Superman. A lot of you don't know what Superman is, who he is, what he was about. Okay. And I promised you guys, this is mostly about Palestine. I'm going to do Free Palestine more than this. So if this is where I'm beginning, guess what? There are a lot more time will be spent on Free Palestine. Don't worry, I'm getting there. So let me move this out of the way. So let's read more of this comic. This is the very first comic. I'm not going to read everything, but I'm going to read so you guys can understand who Superman is. Okay. Outer waiting room of the Daily Star, not the Daily Planet, the Daily Star. Now, just a word of note. The Daily Star was an actual newspaper in Canada, because I believe it's either, I'm not sure if it's one of the two guys that created Superman. I think he comes from Canada. He's actually Canadian. So when he was talking about the Daily Star, that was an actual newspaper at the time. And that was in Canada. Okay. Now, Metropolis, which is the place where Superman is, had a Daily Star. Okay. You may see the editor now, but if you ask me, you're wasting your time. There's nothing like trying. So this is Clark. He has no experience. So he says, I know I haven't any experience, sir, but I think I'll make a good reporter. Sorry, fella, can't use you. So this is how it begins. Clark Kent goes to the Daily Planet. He meets secretary. He gets to see the head chief of the newspaper, and the chief turns him down. In an alley, Clark removed his street clothes, revealing himself clad in Superman costume. If I get news dispatches promptly, I'll be in a better position to help people. I've got to get that job. Now, I want you to realize that the same reasoning that Clark gave in Man of Steel is the same reasoning this Clark here is giving, which is by being in a news agency, he can find out what is happening and be able to help people. Okay. So Man of Steel has a lot in common with the original Superman. Okay? People think it's controversial that Jonathan Kent said to Clark, we talked about this. We talked about this, that you need to keep this side of yourself a secret. Okay? And Clark says, so what should I have done? Just let them die? And he says, maybe, because this is bigger than you and me and this place. This is a huge thing. There's lots at stake here, son. Do you see what happened with Pete Ross's mother? How she was so scared? And he says, well, did God do this to me? And this is when his father used this opportunity to show him his alien origins, where they found him, the stuff that was inside there, and say, this is to show you that you're not of this world. And he says, I just want to keep on pretending I'm your son. And he's like, well, you have to find out what your purpose is. You got to find out who you are. But when you will realize that all these little gifts and strengths and stuff is a blessing. And that day you'll have to stand up and make a choice in front of the world, whether you want to stand proud to them or not, whether you want to serve them or not. But until then, you need to know what your purpose is. So here's Superman here. He knows what his purpose is. His parents kind of told him what his purpose is, that at the right time, you will use your powers to help humanity. Whereas Jor-El in Man of Steel, his real father, or at least the programming for his real father, told him, oh, this is what you have to do. You have to bring hope. You have to help the people of Earth. So in Man of Steel, they vary a little bit off of this. His Kryptonian father instead tells him about this. In Man of Steel, Clark's father dies, but his mother's still alive. In this Superman issue, both parents are dead, and that's when he takes on the mantle of Superman. So this is there are variations to the real thing. And I used the very first issue because y'all are going to say, oh, it's not canon now. There's a new canon. Blah, 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 blah. No, you need it for context. You need to understand what the initial spirit of the character was. What were these two? What was Schuster and his compatriot? What were they doing? What was their purpose? You need to know it because that's the pureness of the character. And as you can see, Superman begins by leaping. He's not flying. He's leaping first. And that's very important because in Man of Steel, again, we've never seen this before. Superman was leaping in the beginning. He could run, he could leap, but he couldn't fly, right? He couldn't fly. And this is important. This is important because while Superman's trying out his abilities and skills and building his strength and stuff, he's doing it without revealing himself to everybody. Right? He's like in the pupil stage. He's preparing himself for what he's later going to do. And it's the same thing that happened in Man of Steel. In fact, the beauty of Man of Steel is that Man of Steel shows you the development into Superman, right? Because Man of Steel, like Batman Begins, is about how Superman came to be. And yes, they took liberties with certain things, and they changed up a little bit from the original. But at the end of the day, that was to make it more grounded. That was to make it more of a sci-fi sort of story. And so those things, but there are certain things about Superman that are unchangeable. And this is the thing you guys don't understand. If you do not know what the core facets of these mythical figures are, like how I explained the core facets of Batman, for example, then you can't be You can't make comments on them. You have to go. That's why I said, to understand Batman, you need to go to the very first comic of Batman and go all the way through to this modern times. You can't say, oh, this is not canon, so therefore I should ignore it. No, because this was where the character came from. And also, the very first comics give you the original sentiments behind the characters, why they came to be, why somebody engineered them in their minds. And even better would be to know what was happening in the 1930s, the context behind it, so that you can now have a pure version of the character. Because remember, different writers have different ideas. And so different writers will take liberties with the character and do different stories. But there are certain things that make Batman Batman. You see? And so even if you take the liberties and you decide to do this comic or that comic or whatever, and have Batman doing this or doing that, you want to make sure that you stay grounded in certain non-negotiable things about Batman. And it's the same thing with Superman. Okay? But if you have no historical context behind Batman or Superman, you can't speak on it. All you're speaking about is the newest iteration of them. Okay. So let's continue a little bit. Okay, with Superman. So he's going to try and get the job by first doing something with Superman. So Superman launches himself alongside of the building, a great leap, so he can hear what the editor is saying. What's that? A mob attacked county jail? Cover that story. Sounds like my big chance to impress the editor. So here's hoping I get there on time. At that very moment, and you know what's funny about here's hoping I get there on time? If you remember Zack Snyder's Justice League, and you remember Superman was resurrected from the dead, and Bruce tells what the hell? I'm going to say Jeremy Irons. Jeremy Irons, the actor of Alfred, right? Bruce tells Alfred, I know he's going to be there. And Alfred said, what makes you so sure? And he says, fate, Alfred, fate, right? So Superman actually comes to Alfred's place. Alfred said, he said you'll come. And then he says, I hope you're not too late. That's a callback to Superman issue number 1, because Superman is now trying to get to a place and he's saying, here's hoping I get there on time. Yeah. So Chris Terrio and Zack Snyder and David Goyer really dug in and pulled out from the comics what these characters are at their essence. It's interesting hearing Alfred say that to Superman instead of Superman saying it to himself. And the hope, let's hope you're not too late. You know, hope is what Superman's about, right? He's hope, right? And like the way how they paint that picture of hope is so incredible. You know, we always think of, Superman being the hope, but he's just the embodiment of hope. Superman's servant to hope, if you get what I'm saying. So they made hope. This is what I like about Zack Snyder's stuff. They made hope the hero of all these movies. Man of Steel showed hope where they overcame an assault on the earth to destroy all of humanity. And hope, because people hoped, Perry White hoped and told the young lady to get it, to hold on, because she was panicking. She was ready to give up, and he was like, hold on. That was hope on display. This is what I like about Zack Snyder. Zack Snyder can embody values. And that's why I said Man of Steel is a spiritual movie. BVS is a spiritual movie. And Zack Snyder's Justice League is a spiritual movie, because on display, what was really being described was hope in these 3 movies. It wasn't about Superman. I don't know if you guys get what I'm saying. And that's what I like about Zack Snyder's stuff. Don't forget to smash the like button, people. Zack Snyder's stuff is beyond, it's beyond just icons and people. Zack is saying something with these fucking, I'm sorry about the curse word. He's saying something about these movies. I was just so moved by it. I wanted to say that. You know, Zack doesn't care about Batman and Superman like that. I hate to say it like that, but he sees them as conduits to tell us more about ourselves. Do you get that? He's more interested in hope. How do you hope in the face of adversity? How do you hope in the face of failure? How do you hope in the face of death and destruction? And it seems as though things are getting worse, but yet you hope, you hope, you hope. Do you understand that? Do you understand that he's, that Alfred is beginning to believe? That Alfred is beginning to believe. Do you understand a Batman running? He says, I believe I'm going strictly on faith, not on reasoning. I'm done with reasoning. Oh my God. That's a Christian thing right there. That's a Muslim thing right there. That's a Jewish thing right there. Oh my God. Do you guys get that? Do you understand what he said? The impact of what he said? And that, to me, that's the powerful thing there. I don't care if you're a fucking atheist. I don't care what you are. That was isolated. In spite of everything, I still believe things can work out. I still believe. I don't know how it's going to work out. Don't ask me about that. I just know it will. And I'm fixated on that. And that is beyond reason and logic. We're not using reason and logic anymore. We're going beyond that to a feeling. You remember when at the end of BVS, he's like, just a feeling, right? Just a feeling. It's like a feeling. I know things are going to work out. Don't ask me how, but they're going to work out. Okay? That's faith. That's hope. And he isolated it. He isolated it. In those 3 movies, he's constantly, you remember in Superman, he has to go up against the World Engine. And Lois Lane is like, but if you go into that atmosphere there, isn't that thing going to weaken you? Can it not kill you? And he said, well, man, I still got to try. Hope. That's hope. Oh my God, that's hope. And that's the thing he isolated in there. The hero of the movie is hope. It's a quality. It's not a person. It's an idea. And he was able to capture that idea in Perry White when he was trying to keep the young lady hopeful, calm her down. It was isolated in Jonathan Kent when he went back into the freaking path of the tornado to save the dog and to save the people. Hope does not mean you make it out alive. It doesn't mean you get a clean-cut fairy tale ending. All it means is I got to do this because I see that this can work out for the greater good. Maybe not for me, but for somebody else. That's hope. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. And it got me. When I think about the situations in the world today, it can lead you to feel hopeless. The Snyder Cut, come on now. Come on now. We didn't know how it was going to work out, but we believed. We had the faith. We hoped. And so yeah, that's a big thing about Superman. It's not just feel-good hope. It's not a fairy tale clean-cut ending hope. It's not a lie to give us false hope. And it doesn't mean that everything's going to work out. But it's to look beyond, understanding you are based in truth, to look beyond and to see a positive outcome and to move in that direction. Okay. So Superman, I know I'm spending a lot of time on this. I knew I had to do the Free Palestine thing, but I just had to. It got to me. Here's hoping I get there on time, he says. That very moment before the county jail, get him! Lynch that dirty dog. They're breaking down the door to the jail. A few moments later, and this is where this came from. This is from the comics, right? A few moments later. So for those of you who don't know, the meme on a few moments later has to do with these comics, okay? All right. Let me go. I ain't guilty, I tell ya. That's the guy right there. That's right, Sims. Beg for mercy. But it won't do you no good. Now, this is back in the 1930s when they were lynching people, all right? Black people got lynched all the time. And in Superman, we got a lynching. Now, it's not a black person, but nonetheless, there's a lynching. People are going to do their vigilante justice, right? Vigilante justice. And Superman's about to do his vigilante justice to counter that vigilante justice. Here we go. Don't do this to me, please, please. They're tying him up to go and hang him, to lynch him. Hanging's too good for ya. Just as the lynching is about to begin, down hurtles a fantastic figure. Go on, scatter. What in the... This prisoner's fate will be decided in the court of justice. Return to your homes. Rush him. You're begging for it. And he punches the guy and knocks him out. Actually, he punches two guys and knocks them out. And everybody else scampers and runs. All right. So for people saying Superman, he doesn't beat up people, you know, Superman won't just beat up someone. Oh, no, you are wrong. He'll do it. Okay. Knock you out too cold. The crowd was to find itself swept back by the lone figure. I don't know how you did it, but you have my thanks, says the man. Who are you? And Superman straight up says, a reporter. He has no tact whatsoever. Anyway, let's get the prisoner back in his cell. So he calls himself a reporter, which is crazy. You saved my life, and I'm not forgetting it. I'll let you in on a red hot story. Let's have it. So he tells him about someone who's about to die, blah, 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 blah. The truth of the matter is he was able to now, as Clark Kent, to phone in to the Daily Star and to tell them that Superman stopped an attempted lynching, and he asked for the job. He said, "You're okay, Kent. Report to work tomorrow." So he finally gets the job as a daily reporter. And again, in faith, he says, I'm a reporter. He wasn't the reporter at the time, but in faith, he says he's a reporter, which is really cool. And then the guy in the prison, he gives him a red hot story about somebody who is being tried for murder, but they're innocent, and they're going to get executed. I think the very same night. And he also spilled the beans on who actually committed the murder. So Clark was able to follow through with that. And it's really interesting because, check this out. I want to show you guys something. It's so funny. So it's a woman who committed the murder. She points a gun at him. You'll regret butting into this. Yes, I killed Jack Kennedy and he deserved it. But you'll never tell anyone. You're not going to leave this room alive. And then he grabbed the gun from her, said, you little vixen, you ready to sign a confession, or shall I give you a taste of how that gun felt when I applied the pressure? You're hurting me. I'll get the chair for this. You should have thought about that before you took a human life. The governor will be interested in hearing what you have to say. And then he leaps in the air with her because he can't fly. And he keeps on leaping as he leaps through the night till he gets to the governor's place. And the governor's estate was finally reached. He ties up the woman and ties up her mouth like if she's a hostage. Make yourself comfortable. I haven't time to attend to it. I must see the governor. It's a matter of life and death. What do you mean by knocking this hour of the night? I must see the governor. It's a matter of life and death. That's Superman, right? See him in the morning, and he closes the door. Superman smashes down the man's door. I'll see him now. It's illegal entry. I'll have you arrested. Answer my question. Are you going to take me to the governor? No, I won't. Then I'll take you to him. The guy's yelling out, help, help. See? So Superman's like a vigilante. He's actually, and I know that there were reports that, he'd be like a thug or whatever, but he actually takes up the guy and he's starting to go up the steps with the guy. Okay. Oh my God. Which is doubly illegal. Okay. He broke and entered, and then now he's holding the guy hostage, which is illegal. Yes, this is the governor's sleeping room. Don't think you're going to get away with this outrage. It's locked. Yes, it's made of steel. Try and knock this door down. And he smashes the door to smithereens. It was your idea. What's the meaning of this? Evelyn Curley is to be executed in 15 minutes for a murder. I have proof here of her innocence, a signed confession. I don't. Oh, okay, I know. Okay. Believing the governor menaced by a madman, the butler produces a concealed weapon. Reach for the ceiling, quick! Put that toy away. I warned you, take another step and I'll shoot. And he fires. Pow! The bullet ricochets off Superman's tough skin. This is no time for horseplay. And you can see the clock down below as the time is almost reached. Don't you realize I have proof she's innocent and you alone can save her? Let me see those papers. Hurry, contact me with the penitentiary. Stop, the governor was pardoned. The governor has pardoned her. Thank God. I told you I was innocent. All right. It's just a woman there on the ground there. And there's a priest there. He's gone, disappeared. Yes. But here's a note he left, sir. You'll find the real murderers bound and delivered on the lawn of your estate. Next morning, as Kent leaves for the newspaper upon which he works as a reporter, have you heard? The Curry girl is innocent. Let's see the paper. Good, I'm not mentioned. Miles away in the governor's private chamber, gentlemen, I still can't believe my senses. He's not human. Thank heaven, he apparently is on our side of law and order. So they have, they're scared of Superman. The governor is actually scared of Superman. And that's because, again, his great feats of strength. The thing about it is, because he's just Superman, nobody's IDing him as Clark Kent, so he's not a target for them to, turn their fears onto. And then, of course, when people are afraid of what they don't understand, they resort to violence, and they probably would want to get rid of him. So you could see how somebody that powerful, particularly how he was moving, especially, how, that could scare everybody, So there you go. Now, just to show you one more thing. So Clark Kent goes back to work. You wanted to see me? Yes, be seated. Did you ever hear of Superman? What? So Clark behaves as if he doesn't know who Superman is. Reports are streaming in that a fellow with gigantic strength named Superman actually exists. I'm making it your steady assignment to cover these reports. Think you can handle it, Kent? Listen, Chief. If I can't find out anything about this Superman, no one can. Hurry, Kent. A phone tip. White beating at 211 Court Avenue. I'm on my way. At 211 Court Avenue. Hold it! What do you want? Don't get tough. Tough is putting it mildly. The treatment you're going to get. You're not fighting a woman now. He smashes him into the wall. You asked for it. The guy tries to stab Superman. With a sharp snap, the blade breaks under Superman's tough skin. And now you're going to get the lesson you'll never forget. And the guy fainted off. All right, so the early versions of Superman was a big strong man. That's what he was. He was a strong man. And because he was a strong man, um, listen, man, if the guy talked tough, he would talk tough back to the guy. You know, he'd punch people, throw them into windows, smash them into buildings, you know. Uh, so a lot of people's misconception about Superman, and I very much wanted to start with the first issue of Superman. I know that there was protest about Superman being too violent and being more dictatorial and so on, but Superman was there to just try to create a balance. As tough as he was, and he was a tough guy at the time, because he's a strong man, he was really trying to deter people, and he was trying to bring justice the way how back in the 30s they thought justice would be done, decisively, quickly, and with a stern hand. So a lot of people now think of Superman as this pansy, this pretty boy. You know, he doesn't get angry. He doesn't correct people and put them in check. He's afraid to kill anyone. No, that wasn't the original Superman. That wasn't the first Superman. He was like a strong guy, couldn't fly, he only leaped, and that's why he was dressed in the Victorian strongman outfit, because he was a strong guy. Superman was known as a strong guy. Okay, so that's why that outfit. Okay, Superman has evolved. He has more powers. He's gotten even stronger. You know, he has, he has cold breath and laser eyes. Those things came later. But originally, he was just a straw man. And I think a lot of you guys don't know that. So that's why he was dressed like that. He was dressed like a straw man with the cape and everything, because that reminded us of Victorian wrestlers. So Superman was built off of a wrestler. So if you look at him, he's very muscle bound, shows all his muscles. He's dressed up in a wrestling outfit. Superman was a wrestler. Got it? Okay. Strong wrestler. And he used to body people. Not kill them, but he'll beat the shit out of you. He was like one of those bouncers. He was like a bouncer, who fought for truth. He tried to get justice in situations. He tried to balance the scales. So if you was beating up your wife, domestic violence, Superman would come back with violence at you, and he beat your ass up. Oh, you want to know how it feels to beat up a woman? Okay, I'm going to show you. You know what I mean? He was a strong man. You got it? So the guys like Randy Savage and, all the wrestlers that you see out there, they sort of embody what Superman was. You got it? Okay. So a lot of you guys have a lot of misconceptions about these superheroes, and I decided to go into their origins and show you what they really were. And then they evolved somewhat. But if you don't know these characters, if you don't know who Superman really is, if you don't know the origins of these characters, you're going to continually say dumb stuff on social media. You're continually, and I hope you guys spread this video, because a lot of people need to be educated on these characters. Did Superman kill? Yes, he killed. I can show you the early episodes where he flung people through the air, just like how Black Adam flung some criminals in the air and they fell to their deaths. Yes. But for the most part, he didn't kill people, okay? But did he? Did he crash himself into planes and blow up planes and their pilots and stuff? And sometimes the pilots eject, sometimes they didn't, because they had to run for their lives. Superman was coming after them, That's how Superman was. Okay, he toned down a little bit. And then they talked about Superman having a no-kill rule, even though he doesn't have a no-kill rule. Batman does. And so was Superman a terror to criminals? Absolutely. He wanted them to be absolutely uncomfortable. And he let you see him coming a mile away because he was very strong. Whereas Batman would use the cover of night and sneak around, not Superman. Again, Superman was a vigilante. So he broke and entered. You saw how many laws he broke, okay? But he broke those laws so that the law, true justice, could happen. What these superheroes show us is that, you you could try to follow the rules of the system as much as you want, but if there are corrupt people in power, as is happening in the world today with our governments, you're going to have to do civil disobedience, and sometimes you may have to be a vigilante, and you have to execute justice. And this is what these comics teach you. And if you're not paying attention, this is why people love the Superman comic, because Superman was doing things they wanted to do. Okay, Batman was a great comic because people realized justice wasn't being served, and somebody in the day decided, all right, we're going to do a comic and we're going to pretend that this guy could handle it and actually get justice to actually work. You understand? And that's what Zack Snyder was talking about in my previous stream about these characters. These characters were supposed to be the answer, Mother Mythos, to certain questions we have, to certain problems we have. They were supposed to be the answer. They were supposed to embody the answer of that. And that's what a lot of people miss. And that's why Superman's still relevant somewhat today. But when people try to go back in nostalgia and try and recapture stuff that puts people in a sleep, okay? Superman, oh, he's supposed to represent, kids and children. It's kids and children. No. Comics are not just made for kids. Comics are a form of literature that must be respected. And usually the comics reflect the thoughts on the day. The comics today talk about, sexuality, right? LGBTQ stuff and so on. It's reflecting the sentiment of the day, okay? The issues of the day, social media, the internet, electronic things. So, people losing their jobs to AI, this kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? So when we talk about these things, I want you guys to put it in context and stop looking at comics as trash or jokes. This is why comic book writers, great comic book writers, have been treated like shit for so many years. Hold on a second. I'm going to go on Twitter for a second here. I'm trying to remember his name. I'm hoping I actually captured it somewhere on Twitter. Hold on one second, please. I don't have him. I don't have him. Okay. I was looking to see if I could find him. We've seen it with Bill Finger for Batman, how creators are, they don't get credit for certain things. I can't find it. All right, no problem. Anyway, the creator of Deadpool, he was talking about how the creators are treated like trash. And, even recently there, Marvel really treated him like trash. And he's probably going to go back to his independent labels. But the thing about it is, a lot of these comic book writers, because they're not considered people who are giving great literary works, even though the stuff that they do is so highly influential, they've been treated very bad. I think of Alan Moore, how he was treated so badly on Watchmen. They didn't give him, the company stole it, sort of like his money that he was supposed to get for Watchmen. And, V for Vendetta, he got his money for that. And you look at the estates, Schuster's estate right now suing WB because they don't want to recognize the licensing and the copyrights, not the licensing, the copyrights that have gone back to the Schuster estate, and they don't want to pay them for it. And this sort of thing goes on and on and on, where these people try to exploit the creatives, and it's a never-ending story. Anyways, I wanted to say all of that to say to you guys that these are literary works. And they're to be taken in context and serious. People like to say, well, comics, the comic book characters, James Gunn is saying this, that they don't take them seriously, right? He thinks of them as the stupidest things ever, and they look stupid and they have stupid costumes and stuff. But no, Superman back in the day when Superman came out was not stupid, and it wasn't a stupid costume. It was a Victorian strongman. I just showed you guys the origins. Context is everything, and for Superman to remain relevant, you have to understand the context in which he came out, why he came out. If you do not understand why Superman was Superman, it wasn't Superman so that little kids could come and cuddle him and hug him like a pedo. No, Superman was Superman to protect the helpless, the powerless, like Batman, but in a different way. He had his super strength, and he used his super strength to protect people while concealing his true identity, which was Clark Kent. Okay? When Superman came to save the day, people doing bad things quaked. And people who were doing the right thing, they hurried, they cheered him on. That's Superman. Okay? So we saw a woman undergoing domestic violence, how Superman handled that situation. We saw people trying to lynch another person and get vigilante justice. We saw how Superman handle that situation. We saw a woman wrongfully about to be executed, and we saw Superman handle that situation, a situation that the law would not have been able to handle. It's too slow. So we see what Superman is. We didn't see Superman hugging up little kids and stuff. I'm not saying that Superman shouldn't do that. I'm not saying that Wonder Woman shouldn't do that. I'm not saying that they shouldn't go into hospitals, kids with cancer, whatever, inspire them. I'm not saying that, but that's not what the character was created for. Okay. So, you know what I don't like about these mega corporations and these oligarchs? They try to take our heroes and manipulate them and use them to their advantage. And if you guys don't understand context, you're going to be naive and you're going to play around with their game, and they're going to brainwash you into their nonsense. I'm not going to curse. It's going to curse, but I changed my mind. Okay, I'm going to show you a real Superman. I'm going to show you a real hero. Free Palestine. Ryan Sobiani says the first footage of Dr. Hussam Abu Safia after his detention. Now, for those of you who don't know, Dr. Hussam Abu Safia tirelessly worked to try and preserve lives of Palestinians in different hospitals. He was in charge of the hospital system there. And he surrendered to the forces when he had refused to leave the grounds, and he finally left the grounds. And this is him in custody. They detained him, and or shall I say, they kidnapped him illegally, and they have him illegally in custody in Israeli prisons. And he suffers from diabetes and other things, so he's not 100% at all. And they have him in chains. He should not be in chains. This man has done nothing wrong to be in chains. And I'm going to say this to you guys right now. If you guys don't put a stop to this shit, this is our future. They're going to pull any person off the road, interrogate them. They can cut their funds, cut their money, because Elon Musk is working on a digital system, which everybody will become dependent on. Social welfare and all these things are being cut. And they're going to be able to do whatever the fuck they want to do with you. Sorry about the F-bomb, but I just feel very strongly about it, so I had to say that. Okay, I'm not going to show you. This is just footage of him, so there's no audio right here. There's an Israeli press man, and he's covering everything. These fucking Israeli press people are crazy, man. They cover everything. And believe you me, that's all war crime information, because they shouldn't be holding this man. This is actually a war crime going on right now in real life time. They better let him go and hope that he forgives them, because motherfucker, y'all in deep shit. Okay, this is a war crime. This man has done nothing wrong. Now, they're doing a prisoner exchange, so, all crimes can be forgiven with the prisoner exchange, but this man has done nothing wrong to be in custody. All right, he's used as a war chip, no problem. The war is war. But at the end of the day, I hope they're not abusing him and beating him up and doing him all kinds of bad things. And I hope they're getting him his medication and stuff. If they have that, they should be getting him his medication and stuff. They should be treating this man with so much fucking respect because this man could save their fucking life. That's all the guy does. He saves lives, motherfucker. This man did nothing. I'm sorry if I'm cursing right now. I'm so angry. But this man's a Superman. And this is what I'm talking about with hope.
Sufyan, how are you? You're
okay. I'm going to show you this, but I'm going to come back to him.
Oh, love, we're digging deeper in the rubble. Hold on to my voice outside. Wake up, we just lost another family. Wake up, cause we need the world to see. No love, they will never understand us.
Beautiful. So here, McDonald donated thousands of free meals to the Israeli army officers, offering them 50% discounts throughout the nation's chains. Meanwhile, the people in America are suffering. All right. So offer them, again, the money that Americans give them and worldwide, they send this money to the IDF. And the IDF has been murdering people. I said murdering people. This is not war. This is bullshit. Okay. They did an ethnic cleansing campaign. Now, I want to say something else. But first, shout out to Coldplay.
This is in the West Bank in Gaza. We can send I'm also going to play this to my friend Zeppelin. And this is a song about when you love someone and you miss them. This is in the West Bank in
Now,
Gaza.
Coldplay stopped playing in Israel. And they haven't played in Israel for a long time because of what's happening. And they've been always a big supporter of Free Palestine.
And,
So shout out to Coldplay.
When you love someone and you miss them. This is in the West.
Okay, this is the interview with Dr. Hussein Abba Safir. After he's arrested by Israel, he'll be released, I think, on Saturday. Hopefully, they'll release him. I don't know. These people are so wicked, they never know. All right, so here we go.
اتصال من الكابتن نفسه وانا موجود في المستشفى كان في تنسيق كامل مع الجيش انه احنا ننقل الحالات من مستشفى كمال عنوان الى غزه وكانوا هم على علم بادخال الوقود للمستشفى بادخال الادويه وبادخال المستهلكات الطبيه والمعدات فلما تم ادخال هذه الادويه كان بالتنسيق كامل مع الجيش وعندما طبعا اجانا اتصال من الكابتن نفسه انه كمال عنوان تقع في منطقه قتال خطيره فلازم احنا نخلي المستشفى الى مستشفى كمال الاندونيسي بس انا بالاساس انا دكتور اطفال وبالاساس انا كنت بدير مستشفى كمال عدوان بشكل مؤقت يعني فطبعا كان كل شيء بالتنسيق يعني حتى
שימו לב מה קורה כשאבו ספיה נשאל שוב האם הוא ראה את החטופים שלנו. הוא מתחיל להתחמק, לגמגם. הוא הפסיק להבין אנגלית.
You have seen the hostages, our hostages, Israeli hostages. لا ايش
شفت الصراع؟
لا طبعا لا انا بالاساس اخص تخصص.
ليش انت سمحت لهم يفوتوا لعندك على المستشفى؟
انا ما بعرف انه في عندي انا مصابين ايش هم اصلا انا في النهايه بوصل رساله انسانيه بس انا ما بعرف انه في عندي انا مصابين وتم اعتقالهم على الحواجز بس الناس اللي موجودين كانوا عندي ناس عاديين.
למה היה שם כלי נשק בתוך הבית חולים?
شو تفسيرك
נשק של חמאס.
شو تفسيرك انه كان في اسلحه تابعه لمنظمه حماس جوه المستشفى؟
طبعا المستشفى هي اصلا ما فيش لها صور المستشفى تقع في الشارع يعني وبالتالي انا كنت محافظ على المبنى اللي فيه تقدم فيه الخدمات الانسانيه بحيث انه ما حد يدخلها وكان في تنسيق مع الجيش انه احنا نمنع النزوح يعني احنا ما كنا نسمح لنازحين يدخلوا داخل المستشفى.
Why are you here? لما تخوف؟
مش عارف انا مش عارف
לא יודע.
والله ما عارف.
شو رأيك بالأستاذ 17
طبعا هذا الشيء مش كويس انا حكيت كان بصراحه او انا احكي بصراحه يعني تعامل الشباب كان معي كثير كويس يعني كانوا يعني متفاهمين وكانوا
בסיום הרעיון הועבר אבו ספיה לחקירת שב"כ נוספת.
Children in Gaza have a message for you.
المستقبل. 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 أنا مستقبل. أنا مستقبل. أنا مستقبل. المستقبل. أنا مستقبل. المستقبل. أنا 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 المستقبل.
أطفالنا أطفال فلسطين هم المستقبل. Our children, Palestinian children, are the future of Gaza.
The future of Gaza is for Palestinians and their children. Make sure your leaders and politicians know that.
Let's just be open and honest about the stats. 17 of the top 25 hedge funds are run by Jews. 17 of the top 27 donors in the 2020 presidential election were Jews. 7 out of 8 Ivy League universities have Jewish presidents. 3 out of 3 of the major recording companies and major record labels run by Jews. 5 out of 6 of the major media companies the past 5 years run by Jews. CEO, chairman of the Federal Reserve, Jewish every year from 1987 until 2018. Jewish DHS secretary, secretary of state, chief of staff, DNI director, deputy and undersecretary of state. Every one of the Biden children married to somebody Jewish. The vice president married to somebody Jewish. Republican Jewish Coalition, Zionist Organization of America, AIPAC, the most powerful lobbying group in the country on both sides. Consensus, unanimous votes for foreign aid to Israel, unanimous votes for military aid to Israel. ADL and SPLC, selected trusted flaggers for YouTube and Facebook. They are the experts to craft the content moderation guidelines for the big tech companies. When they bring in the experts to censor social media, what do they bring in? The SPLC, founded by a Jew, board full of Jews. ADL, founded to prevent the defamation of the Jewish people. These are the facts. It's peculiar, it's remarkable, it's statistically significant, it is anomalous, it is strange, and it's true.
That's Nick Fuentes, my boy. Yeah, so I'm telling y'all right now, I try and play. Free Palestine opened our minds to so much that's going on in the world. And you think Free Palestine is the beginning, check out Free Sudan, check out Free Somalia, check out all these things. Well, ask yourself, why is there unrest and instability in Libya, Sudan, Somalia, now Iraq, Syria, Lebanon? Ask yourself these questions. They're all connected. They're all connected, ladies and gentlemen. All connected. Okay. Egypt has been truncated. Sisi, he's like a puppet for America and Israel right now. You know what I'm saying? The Arab Spring was to bring about destabilization, to bring about regime change, to put their people in power. You think the king of Jordan, he's in the back pocket of Israel and America. Okay? They're trying to get Saudi Arabia on their side. The people need to stand up because our leaders are not supporting us. They're not about our best interest. We're just pawns on a board for them to play games. This man saved thousands of lives, whereas this oh God, I just want to cuss that guy. He killed thousands of children. And he's smiling. Okay. Now, I'm not saying I'm an advocate for Netanyahu being assassinated. Absolutely not. You're not going to hear me say that, even though I just said it. I'm not an advocate for that. I'll tell you what, though. The system under which this guy got to do all those evils needs to be dismantled, which means the world's never going to look at Israel the same. You see how many prominent people support Palestine. And now, I'm telling you, it's already a tipping point. Israel's not getting away from nothing. And the Zionists, who are both Christian and Jews, that Zionist organization and atheists, y'all are going to be hunted down all over the world because we're realizing the majority of unrest in the world and chaos and confusion, so that you could bring about a one world order. This is what it's all about. And have people bow down to demons, which y'all are calling aliens. Oh, no, motherfucker. That's not going to happen. Okay? On my watch. I'll make sure everything I possibly can do to stop that from happening. You know, even the way how morality is going down the drain, like we talk about here, 50,000 pregnant women in Gaza, but the world is focused on Lily Phillips getting pregnant after sleeping with 100 men. This is the kind of depravity that the world is about. It's a very depraved fucking world where you praise demonic fucking people and you kill, murder, and slaughter and call terrorists people who actually are modest and they're trying to live proper lives. Think about it. Islamic women, they don't walk around naked. They don't prostitute themselves all over the world. Yet they're the ones being hunted down. They're the ones being killed. They're the ones being sniped. Think about what I'm saying. Think. Just because they're Muslims doesn't mean that I should be against them. Why do you think you need to be against Muslims? Oh, because they went on a plane and blew up planes and stuff. That was Al-Qaeda, and they're not Muslims. They're hired. They're hirelings. They're mercenaries. Okay? They're militants. They cut off heads and stuff. No, they don't. It's bullshit. That's Al-Qaeda again. Mercenaries. Most of the Al-Qaeda people are not even Muslim. Y'all need to wake the fuck up. It's a different world out here. Okay? There's CIA, Mossad operators, and private contractors. They've been contracted to do a job. That's why we talk about BlackRock, ladies and gentlemen, which is linked to LexCorp in BVS. What do you think Zack Snyder was talking about? You think y'all get Chris Terrio and Zack Snyder exposed some shit. Who do you think the CEO of Warner Brothers is? David Zaslav. He's Jewish, ladies and gentlemen. He has allegiance to Israel. He's a Zionist. Y'all need to wake the fuck up and see what's really going on. BlackRock owns stocks in Netflix. Peter Thiel is associated with BlackRock. You know what? I'm going to leave this. All I'm going to say to y'all is y'all have no idea what's really going on. Y'all have no fucking idea. And let me just let y'all know, you are not seen as a friend to these people. You are an enemy. They want to get rid of you. You think what's happening to the Palestinians, the Sudanese, the Libyans, the Syrians, and a lot of Syrians are being murdered on a daily basis by this Al-Qaeda terrorist group. These extremists. They are extremists. Not Muslims. They are extremists. But let's just get it crystal clear in your head, okay? Do you think that is happening to the Palestinians, to the Sudanese, to the Somalians, to the Congolese, to the Nicaraguans, to even some of the Venezuelans, to the Palestinians, to the Iraqis, to the Yemenis? You think that's going to stay there? No, motherfucker. They're coming for you. You're next. You're next. So wake up. Wake up. Hope tells you you have to stand. You have to take a stand. So that's what Zack Snyder said in Zack Snyder's Justice. You have to stand. You have to love. You have to fight. You're going to have to pick a side. If you're going to compromise yourself, get a couple dollars and get wiped out. Or if you're going to stand up for humanity and people, average Joes, the working class, because they intend to replace you, motherfucker, with machines. Okay, I'm out of here. God bless you all.